Okay, so me and my friends, I've been on and off introducing them to the UFC for the past year or so. Like ever since I moved to the area, it's like, oh, there's a fight night. Who can I rope
Mm.
in to try to watch it with me, even if they won't understand it? Okay, then who can I get drunk enough to see it? And so I get a couple of
Oh,
guys.
jeez.
Sometimes a few girls come over. Watch the fight.
Oh,
Um,
hey, don't need to brag, dude. Jeez.
I mean, they're all married, and then they're all married to the dudes I watch them with. But
But shout.
no. So I've been watching the UFC on and off, getting them more and more into it, and believe me, they're more into it. We just started watching UFC. We started watching the earliest UFC fights a couple of days ago.
Oh,
So,
yeah.
like, UFC 1, you got like the sumo wrestler versus versus that
He was a he was a
Swedish.
I think it was a karate or kickboxing. His name was like
Yeah.
Gordo, Garad Godot or
There's
something.
like a 200-pound difference. I'm just sitting there going, man, is this
Yeah.
is this what we're gonna look like in 20 years to whoever is in the UFC 20 years from now?
Oh, I mean, no, not that drastic, but it's gonna be a huge change. Not like that though. That was different, dude. That dude, the sumo wrestler's tooth got knocked out. My
Oh,
goodness.
his tooth got knocked out. It got lodged in the guy's foot. And instead of taking it out, they were like, it's too deep in there. We might as well just wrap it up and have him continue fighting for the rest of the night.
Hey, he made it to the final.
He did make it to the final, and it was a quick submission by freaking Hoist Gracie. Just and that got me on a roll. Just like, man, so if I me with my 5-year experience watching the sport,
Yes.
I'm what you would call a quote unquote intermediate fan, but you're more of a seasoned fan, right? So this segment, I wanted to give it a shot, just like your Mount Rushmore +1, so top 5 fighters
Ooh.
of all time, at least just for the UFC. But maybe as a add up question before we get right into it, what is your criteria for these fighters? If someone just at the bar, I mean, 'cause you're at the bar, and
Yeah.
some guy's watching a fight, he has no idea what he's talking about, and it's
Yeah.
annoying you more and more as you watch. You're just at the bar, you're sitting alone, you're drinking, or you might be with a friend, but there's this other dude next to you. He's talking out of his ass, right?
Of course. Yeah. All the time.
But he's asking you a bunch of questions. And so what do you consider are the proper criteria for the greatest fighters of all time?
Geez. Obviously, I guess championship runs. I mean, win-loss record does not matter in MMA. You can lose in it. Like, it's not going to destroy your career like it would in boxing. What you bring as far as like interest, if people care, if you're exciting, you talk trash, all that stuff. Not so much. I mean, it's easy to just give an answer of whoever just has the most title defenses of all time or something, or most championships and whatnot. Because that's not just. I mean, also it's just it's whoever's opinion.
Yeah, but like if you were to objectively measure it out, like what are certain things you're looking for? So you're saying win-loss doesn't really matter. It's more like context.
It doesn't really win-loss doesn't really matter. And I guess if you do have a loss, there's rematches all the time in MMA, so you can always avenge your losses and whatnot. There's that. But if the easy standard answer to that is pretty much your title wins, title defenses, how many title runs you've had.
Would you consider like cultural impact part of that equation, part of the equation as well?
On a more like professional answer, but my answers are based on bro science, so but yeah, you can put that in consideration, their cultural impact, their influence, global influence and whatnot. Yeah, of course.
So for your list, did you put any of your personal fan favorites, or was it all just like objective fighters did you think are the best?
No, it's who it's straight up who I think are the best. Yeah,
All right.
there's some fan bias. in some of them, but
Of course,
it makes sense.
like for me,
And
like if whoever is, I mean, there's a few on my list that I'm just like, yeah, I probably there's a few I know that don't make my list that I know a seasoned fan or a seasoned viewer of the sport is gonna say for sure, like they like this. How could you not put this person in your list?
Yeah.
You know. So before we get into the top 5, who are some fighters that always come up in conversations that just don't quite make the list, but if they made the list for someone, you wouldn't argue with?
Oh, geez. I mean, that's Demetrius Johnson is one of them. Do you remember Demetrius
Mighty
Johnson? He was
he's like
Mighty Mouse. Yeah.
So he what 13 defenses?
It was 11.
11.
I believe it was 11.
And like the only supposed knock against him is that like maybe a lack of a quote unquote lack of competition. That's about it.
Yeah, that was his only weakness is like he was just so much better than everyone else that it makes the other 125ers just they seem like cakewalks, but they're not. They're actually probably like the most, they're definitely the quickest, most exciting, skillful weight class. But it's just, not exciting to watch smaller fighters. But Demetrius Johnson would definitely he could be left out, but he's in that conversation always.
Another fighter that comes to mind, I mean, so many come to mind, but like Fedor Emelianenko.
That's a fighter that,
it's just because it seems like it never, that whole spiel between him and the UFC, quote unquote Dana, it never worked out. He never got to face like these top rankers when they were at the top of their game. The closest thing I think we've seen is what Chael Sonnen in a Bellator match. Right?
That's not true. Just because back in the mid 2000s, Fedor fought for Pride, Pride Fighting Championship, and back then, arguably they had the same, or you could say better talent than the UFC, but they definitely had better talent in the heavyweight division in Pride, and Pride is where Fedor dominated. So the competition was better back then, especially heavyweights.
Yeah, that seems to be the case, even with the UFC and Pride. It seemed like fighting organizations worldwide, they prioritized the heavier weight divisions, whereas now it seems like it's more it might seem more well-rounded. You probably get more variety per weight class, but it feels like back then, if you look at like if you just go into YouTube and you look UFC top knockouts of all time or top like submissions of all time, a lot of it is are these heavier weight classes. And like taking that and given that, I feel like there's a lot of fighters that objectively don't make the list, but it's like an emotional like why doesn't he make the list over someone like X,
Yeah.
You get what I'm getting at. If me as an intermediate fan, I look at recent day.
I love saying because you're not. That's so funny saying intermediate fan because there's casuals, right? But you're like more than that. But,
I'm not gonna front. I'm a step above casual. It's something I want to know more about. Sure. It's something that like the reason is probably there's no question about it. I think it's the best sport objectively for broadcast and like for growth right now. There is no other sport that is as consistent and politics / drama free. Well, there's plenty of drama, but like not outside the realm of sport for the most part. If you could open a can of worms in many different directions, but it's just like, I'm not gonna front and sit here and say, I've been watching since 2008. I've been watching, So for me, it'd be impossible for me to go back and say something like Randy Couture, even though I've seen a lot of his stuff. I've seen Rampage, Anthony Johnson, or like Tito Leota, like or Wanderlei Silva, or even Anderson Silva, which we'll get to in a little bit. It's just like, I could throw out a bunch of these names and pretend like I've seen a bunch of these matches and pretend like I was there to witness that history. But in all honesty, no. My list is based off of what I've seen and objectively as best as I can, how to compare it down. It's like if someone someone decided to watch basketball 5 years ago and the Warriors were at the peak of their game, you think that their list is going to be very, very different. Their takes are going to be very different. Yeah. I would just hope that if you are one of those people, you're maybe humble enough or you're knowledgeable enough to acknowledge that, yeah, your knowledge is limited and there's more that you have to consider, which is why I want to pick at your brain, man. Like, have you ever gone back and watched any of the old? You have, right? UFC 1, all those old stuff.
No, I have before, but it's hard to watch, man. But because back in the day, it was just like one style, and then
that's the crazy part about it.
Yeah,
like that was the coolest / most insane part of the event. You know, me and my roommates were just watching it. It's like, wait a minute, he's fighting again. Like, it's an all-out tournament. He's fighting again in the night. Like, there's no stoppage. And in that first fight, like in that first UFC event, what was it reported? The refs couldn't stop the fight. Right?
They could. They were there to stop the fight, but it's the first time that's kind of happened. So even as people are being finished, tapped out, knocked out, or whatever, they're kind of still like hitting the person, and the ref is kind of confused of like, oh shit, I'm trying to stop this fight, but people are still fighting. It's so strange, dude. It's so different.
It was such a bizarre, but it's the first of its kind. It really was the first.
Yeah.
People really, you know, what you're saying is right. People were really style heavy. What were you gonna say?
They wanted. It was easy to advertise because it was just like they advertise it as like, you know, there's no rules, like anything goes. Who's the best fighter out there? And what really the end game or their plan was to show the dominance of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. And that's because one of the Gracies were the original people that started UFC 1 or UFC.
Was it Helio or was it just?
I forget. It wasn't Helio. It was one of his sons. And you know, initially, because you know, obviously Royce Gracie won the first one, right?
He won 3
initially. Like he won 3. Yeah, I believe he won 1, 2, and 4. But with initially, if you ask any of the Gracies, they would have said no, don't put in Royce Gracie.
They wanted Hickson. Yeah, because
they wanted Hickson. That dude is a freaking monster. But also, you know, Hickson is a 220 pound, 225 pound heavyweight Brazilian jiu-jitsu wizard. But that's not impressive. They needed to put Royce Gracie in there because this dude is 175 pounds, skinny, and it's more impressive to have someone like that just like completely work these other dudes in the competition.
Which is crazy because I mean UFC 2, Royce took down this guy who had at least 90 pounds on him. 90. And that guy was also a grappler in and of itself.
Yeah.
Hickson.
You went back, dude. Yeah. I couldn't. I mean, I tried watching those. It's pretty painful.
No, I mean, I'm recent. It is painful, but it is so funny. It's the best thing though. If you have if you got friends over, and if you got people who've never seen stuff like that before, like showing them that, it's almost a whole nother form of entertainment in and of itself, right? Because like rules are so different. You know, the calls are different. You got Big John McCarthy there in UFC. Like he was a cop, and they basically went to him, got him in, and you know the whole thing with who can stop the fight or whatnot.
Yeah.
Early UFC, just it's real entertainment, but that just got me thinking. Like, hey, could you imagine if like Yo Romero were to suddenly be plucked back and like sent back in time to that UFC 1? What would happen?
Forget about it. You can put in the number 15, whoever is the last rank or 15th rank, like welterweight, into back in UFC 1, and they would dominate.
When did it all start to change? When did people? I know that event may have may have been the catalyst for people starting to consider ground, on the ground kind of combative sports and combative martial arts. But like when did you really see the shift? Because Dana took over in 2001.
Yeah, something like that. The shift was as soon as Dana took over, but before it was always you needed to have a base, right? What is your base skill set? And that one showed that jiu-jitsu was the best, but there were, for the longest time, the best skill set was wrestling, because you literally can control where the fight goes. And there's, I hate that in MMA scoring, like you get so many points for getting takedowns, but it's just so important to have wrestling. And it would be wrestlers that develop into, strikers, or kickboxers that develop into jiu-jitsu people. it was always one base, and then it evolves to what it is now, to where people are going into training as MMA fighter, like MMA training, not so much like MMA is like its own thing now, you know,
I feel like
its own martial art.
Yeah, I feel like you still need a base though, just because you need somewhere to start off from. Because I don't know of any. I mean, other than if you were 12 and somehow your dad was rich enough to send you to some place like AKA and you just started doing all this, or like it's usually you start off in one. Hey, you know, I like this. Might as well try something else. It was before it was so. With that first UFC event, the reason it's so jarring to me is because it's almost like a time split. Like there's a time shift dimension or whatnot. I know I'm throwing a bunch of nerdy topics out, but like,
yeah, man,
something happened where people were very kooky about styles, and there was a lot of superstition about, you know, people had different powers. You know, freaking Tai Chi. A lot of people pretended to be, you know, they were a bunch of lunatics, and I feel like that stuff is so fake and so like entertaining to watch if you just like catch stuff on YouTube. Also, if you have time, go like search Joe Rogan makes fun of fake martial artists. Oh, all the time. That stuff is sort of the catalyst for this conversation too, just because
it's a blast. Yeah.
I wanted to just, you know, even with culture, there's, you know, movies like Karate Kid or these kung fu movies with people taking on a bunch of people, which is wildly entertaining. But even someone like Bruce Lee will be the first to tell you that, you know, when people ask him, "Oh, what's the best style?" He's like, "Why not just learn it all so you don't have to worry?"
Not so much learn it all, but he said take one good thing from each martial art. Why not? Because back then it was super culty. Like you need to, if you belong to a culty. If you were in a kung fu academy, that's it. You're not branching out to learn jujitsu. You're not going to learn boxing like that. That's it. You know, it's so glad that that's not a thing.
I hate to put him on blast, but even my admittedly limited experience with taekwondo, I did taekwondo for 2 years. My grandmaster, he was very, very good, but like there was still that culty kind of mentality of like the master's word is all, and it's just like almost unreasonably. You know, whereas now it seems the martial arts have evolved more into an actual sport. You know, everything from more recognition to ESPN acknowledging it. Like to see the first UFC and to compare it now where it's being advertised on ESPN Plus, like as exclusive fights. It's crazy world of difference. You know?
Yeah. Dude, I mean, the first step with that was Fox. I remember, man, I don't even know if we talked about this in past podcasts, but the first time I heard the Fox Sports tune on a UFC, I was like, dang, like they came a long way. This is like, they made it. This is it. And I said, one day it's going to be on ESPN. And here
that was after Spike, right? That was after they got it from Spike.
Yeah, Spike, you know, like, it was Spike, which is kind of, it's a super bro-y, you know, channel kind of marketed towards like
surfers,
dudes, you know. No, not, you could say surfers, but just like, you know, beard swilling, you know, bros, kind of like that. But once they made the jump or the move to Fox Sports, that was their first, the first jump at showing everyone like, hey, this is a real sport. This is a, you know, we're professionals, you know.
Yeah. I don't know. It's always interesting to analyze like what has led to where we are now, because you take that and then you look at, you know, something like COVID-19, which shuts down the global economy. And then it feels like if you look at it in a tunnel vision almost, if you look at it with tunnel vision, the UFC hasn't lost a step. None. Nope. Like this year, you could take everything into consideration. You know, the NBA, they're struggling to get off their feet. I mean, they have games going, they have scrimmages going on right now. There's talks of the NFL, all this other stuff, you know, soccer. Maybe it's because those are team sports, but the UFC just like and we're talking in the heat of coronavirus, like in the heat of the peak fear of coronavirus. You had Gaethje versus Ferguson, you know, just like they didn't lose their step at all. One more note about older UFC, Hickson, you mentioned Hickson Gracie, right? Do you remember he was in the Hulk movie?
No. Actually, I haven't seen the Hulk movie.
It was Hulk 2008. It had Edward Norton in it. Yeah, it's just this weird scene of like Hickson Gracie. He's supposedly a trainer of Bruce Banner. Bruce Banner is trying to control his breath, and you see Gracie Hickson. He can do that like weird ab thing where it looks like his abs are contorting. Like he does that in a movie.
it's a form of like it's like a yoga technique. It's or some kind of yoga technique. I don't know, but yeah, it's something with breathing. That's wild.
So he was supposed to fight. It's because he should have been the one to fight, just because he was buffer, he was shorter.
He was better. You're talking about Hickson?
Yeah.
Yeah, Hickson body type wise, and also Hickson was just he was better at jiu-jitsu than freaking Hoist Gracie.
Mm-hmm.
Like he was the guy. Like everyone will tell you, everyone in that family will admit that Hickson was the best out of all. But it's just not impressive to be beaten by a 220-pound man than it is a 175.
Do you ever see the rematch between Shamrock and Hoist?
I watched bits and pieces of it. It was pretty bad. It was first, I believe they called it a super fight.
Yeah, they called it a super fight. Me and my friends, we watched it just the other day. It was just like this 30-minute, 40-minute nonstop ground. Like they were on the ground for 40 minutes.
Yeah.
You can't imagine if there's certain things that I look at that. It's just like, man, well, if Hoist didn't have his gi.
Yes.
I think Shamrock wins pretty easily just because he doesn't have anything to. Shamrock outweighs him and he can brawl.
Yeah, because gi jiu-jitsu, they use the gi as a weapon as well. It helps with grip, of course, and also you can use the sleeves, with chokes and whatnot. So it's I don't like gi, but what do I know,
And the other part was like, man, if Hickson had been the one to fight Shamrock, like. I don't know how long, because that might have been the better fight. But yeah, that's just going back doing your history. It's just something I enjoy. But that brings us to who we consider our top 5. So Eric, without beating around the bush anymore, we're obviously gonna still talk about who doesn't make the list because you go 5 down to 1. It's just like, man, there are too many good fighters to not include.
Yeah.
So number 5. I'll go first. I got. Okay, I'm the newbie fan compared to you.
Hey, okay.
I can throw out 2 names that I feel just like are neck and neck. One maybe more than the other, but I got Conor or Liddell. Chuck Liddell or Conor McGregor. Just because that 5 category for me is like the cultural impact. Like the biggest cultural impact. Like Conor probably trumps everyone on the list as far as like cultural freaking like money making in terms of who made the UFC money, right? But like then I feel Liddell is a pretty good comparison to Conor as well, just because of his draw, like his story, and his and both of them are Hall of Famers. But I feel like it's comparable where they were very strike heavy, drew in a lot, and were arguably like no one would complain if you put them in the top like 10 or top 5, right?
Oh no, absolutely not. Yeah. The thing, Chuck Liddell was the perfect fighter back then because MMA was still in a phase of it trying to be a real sport, and also the only fans or their only draw were the bros, and Chuck Liddell was like the perfect fighter for that era.
He looked the part.
This is why people tuned in. Yeah, he looked the part exactly.
Yeah,
he was a character, and he was a guy that partied. Like, the dude was fit. He had a 6-pack, but he had a beer belly. Like he had the 6-pack over the beer belly. This dude parties. He's obviously he only does stand up, but he has good enough wrestling, defensive wrestling. No one's going to take him down, so you're stuck having to fight this guy. And this is back then. He had lightning in his hands.
So this was Chuck Liddell. His reign was maybe a little bit before you even started watching closely, right? Just
right before. Yeah.
Do you remember like his popularity in comparison to other sports superstars at the time? Like, what was it like? Was it almost like comparing a WWE fighter to an athlete? Because now we look at these fighters as athletes, like athletes that can be compared like to a LeBron James, or like a Tiger Woods, Tom Brady, like we put them in the same like performance category now. Whereas before, I'd bet I'd be willing to wager that people saw Chuck Liddell kind of like a Undertaker. Is that true?
Oh, you could say that. Whoever the biggest star is who you can compare him to, because that's what Chuck Liddell was. He was the biggest star at that time. Not so much Yeah, pay-per-views were good, but I mean, it's not comparable to what Conor McGregor did. Of course,
Yeah.
Conor McGregor is something else.
Yeah. So who do you so yeah, number 5, Conor McGregor. I mean, obviously you can't like taking the last 2 years out and just his record alone, just I mean, he's responsible for people. He's responsible for me watching the UFC, you know.
I mean, he's responsible for somebody's aunt or someone's like cousin randomly wanted to watch it just because they know his name.
It's just one of the coolest stories too. He's from, you know, small Irish, you know, very kind of nowhere. His story is interesting, where he was a plumber at one point, and he said, you know, this is what I want to do. It's just, you know, easy story to get along with, easy story to if you were a fan of, because there are a lot of anti-fans to Conor too. But yeah, I feel like he's an easy vie-in into the top 5, bro.
He is, and ironically, at number 5, I have Conor McGregor.
Hey, all right.
Yeah. You can't deny him. This dude is a freaking. But he's an attraction. Like, he's his own thing. He's his own brand. He's not just a. I mean, if Jesus, like, nobody sells like him. Nobody talks trash like him. Mm-hmm. And nobody can get you interested in a fight. Unlike Conor McGregor, he's the greatest as far as, you know, marketing, making money. Like, he did it his way.
Yeah.
And I mean, come on, his contracts now are ridiculous. For example, when he fought Khabib, someone asked in the audience, or one of the reporters were like, "Hey, you know, Proper 12." This is when Proper 12 first came out.
Oh yeah, like, this was right around the Khabib fight, right?
They were like, "Oh, do you have any deals, or is there going to be advertisements for Proper 12?" And then Conor McGregor was like, "Yeah, it's going to be in the ring. Like, it's going to be one of the advertisements in the ring." This dude is,
and it was in the ring.
His own. Yes, he's literally his own brand. Like that's the impact that he made.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
All right.
Conor though, like, there's no. It's weird because at one point I feel like at one point in the last 5 years he really was the greatest for so many people. He still is the greatest for a lot of people, but it just seems like I kind of I think you and me kind of connect there in that, you know, us putting him at that number 5 spot. There are certain things that have kind of taken him out of like GOAT. Potentially, you know.
I mean, to make it into a top 5 in that short of a span of greatness is pretty impressive. Like, his peak of all peaks was when was Alvarez? After he beat Eddie Alvarez. Yeah, that's when he was untouchable. Like, before he fought Mayweather, that he was untouchable, because this is at a time, you gotta remember. I don't know if you remember him in like early Conor. He was just. Of course, he talked a lot of trash, extremely arrogant, and he literally called all of his shots. Every single fight, he said what he was going to do. Might as well call him Mystic Mac.
I just feel like the Nate Diaz 2 fight and then the Jose Aldo fight, those two, I think, kind of catapulted him up there. That's
it. Yeah.
Into that realm where we still hold him today. You know, we still kind of see him as that premier fighter, but, you know, it remains to be seen what else he's gonna do. Do you think he'll fight again this year?
Yeah. This year, I don't know, but he'll definitely fight again. You know, in his roots, in his heart, he's a fighter. He's a competitor. Mm-hmm. He's gonna fight. He's got too much. There's way too much left, and let's not forget. You know, we're not just putting. He didn't just. Not only did he sell. I mean, he was a winner. He's still the first ever champion. Ever to hold 2 belts at the same time. You know, it's been done since, but he was the first. He's the first to do it. And he doesn't have any title defenses, but geez. But he did. That's something historic that puts him in there. That top 5, you know?
Yep. Any more you can say about Conor before we go on? Anything else?
No. That's about it.
It's pretty easy vie-in, right? Like top 5,
too
it's easy. All right, McGregor. Now number 4, who do you got?
I'm gonna go first. It's like
it'll jigsaw back and forth. This is where it starts getting interesting.
We got number 4. I got BJ Penn, Baby J.
I called it.
BJ Penn. Do you remember that guy?
Yeah, you got beat up in front of outside of a bar. I remember that guy.
See,
I'm kidding.
unfortunate. No,
Yeah, yeah.
no. That's good. I'm glad you said that. That's unfortunate because that's now that the UFC is like this global sport.
Mhm.
This is what the casual fan knows BJ Penn as, and it's really unfortunate.
It's
This
sad,
guy,
yeah.
it's unfortunate. This guy was, first of all, he was so likable. First of all, he's Hawaiian. What makes him more likable too is he was never in tip top shape. He was just a guy that was just like, screw it, yeah, I'll fight, and yeah.
What? Wait,
You know what I mean?
You lost me a little bit there. He's guy
Okay.
not really in tip shot. He's just say yes, I'll fight. Like so, but
Me,
but what was his
when
base
I
style?
see-
Tell us more about him in that regard.
BJ Penn, first of all, he's the, oh geez, I just sound like Joe Rogan. I'm gonna repeat everything Joe Rogan says about BJ Penn.
He's your favorite fighter, dude. Own it.
Yeah. For the longest time, he was my favorite fighter. His nickname is the Prodigy. The reason why is because he got his black belt in 3 years, which is unheard of. You don't get a Brazilian jiu-jitsu black belt in 3 years. You know, people don't get it in 10 years. This dude gets it in 3 years. He's the first non-American to win, the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu Championship, the one in Brazil, whatever. I think it's called ADCC, something like that. He's the first non-American to win that. His main, I think his fighting style, it was boxing and jiu-jitsu. And he had excellent like takedown defense. So that was another fighter that you had to, like, you're spending all this energy trying to take this dude down, and he's just gonna mess you up with the hands. He was one of the original for me. I mean, I'm sure there's others, but he was the original fighter that would fight anybody, anytime, anywhere, any weight. He did not care. He just wanted to prove that he was the best. He fought anybody, literally anybody. And that's savage. Like, this guy was, first of all, he's a lightweight fighter, right? That's what, 155?
Yeah.
And then this guy went on a tear. First of all, he won the welterweight championship back in the day, and this dude leaves the UFC and goes fights in other organizations at other weights. He fought at middleweight, light heavyweight, and he didn't care. And I just loved Fat BJ.
Fat BJ, because like later in his career, it's like
no, it wasn't later in his career. It was when in his prime. He was like when he fought at heavyweight or light heavyweight, he was just like, it was just him. But just,
no, that's what I'm saying. So I'm just saying later in his career, he got like he got noticeably smaller, obviously, because he had to compete at like lower. Because I do remember him getting submitted very early in the first round by some, like, I don't even remember. You remember that. But like, it's just sadly that's the lasting impression. I don't think that takes away from his legacy at all. Like, if you look at all of his fights, he like, I looked at several lists online. Yeah, he makes them, It's just the same things we keep talking about with fighters, where they're not afraid to take on anybody, and for the most part they win, But
yeah, he was that guy.
Yeah.
My goodness. I mean,
what's a fight that we have to see if we're gonna watch a BJ Penn fight? If UFC historians, wannabe historians out there want to go, or MMA historians want to take a look, what are some fights we have to take a look at?
Okay, the fights you got to take a look at for like when you want to talk about BJ Penn, like when he put everything together in his absolute prime, the Diego Sanchez fight, BJ Penn, Diego Sanchez. BJ's defending his belt, but it was just everything put together. He was in tip-top shape, just like untouchable. Like, there's that one, and there's another fight, because BJ Penn was always praised for his ability to like not get taken down. His takedown defenses, was the best. It was a second fight. Did you remember a fighter, or do you know a fighter named Matt Hughes?
Yeah,
Matt Hughes is one of those guys too that is, in that top 10 conversation. But this was actually a loss for BJ Penn, but he was challenging Matt Hughes again for the welterweight title. And then there was a point in the fight, I think almost all of the beginning, like first 2 rounds, Matt Hughes is trying to take BJ Penn down, and BJ's like ankle is like where his head is, or his knee is up to his head. He's wobbling on one foot and not being taken down by this stud wrestler, Matt Hughes. And you just need to watch that just to see how impressive this guy was. His dexterity and flexibility.
Yeah, Matt Hughes. That's another name that is a reoccurring name when you look at UFC history. Just like
Oh yeah,
how dominant he was
he's
in his own right.
he's in the
Him,
category
Wanderlei
of
Silva.
Vanderlei. Yeah, Vanderlei Silva's definitely there too. That guy was scary.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just man, I can't say enough. I was just a bit. I'm sure you know this, but yeah, I was like the biggest BJ Penn fan, and he just slowly just disappointed me more and more. And it got to a point where I didn't even watch. Oh, that was Ryan Hall that submitted him, the one that you're talking about.
Yes, I don't remember who the title card was.
Yeah, I think I didn't even watch like his last two fights, and this is somebody that I would take off work for or have a party for to watch fight, and it's gone.
Which I think says something about the criteria that we, because just taking their record alone, right? Just like just taking their record and what they did and what they accomplished alone. Yeah, it then gets really hard to measure who really is better than who. But just like there is something to be said about context, the context surrounding those fights, storylines. I hate to say it draws because the fight in it, if it's to me, I'm a raw. I'd like to consider myself a raw sports fan at this point. Like if something is happening, I like it because of the event, not because it's Conor McGregor. I just like that the fight's going on. Same as an NBA basketball game. I'll go to the Knicks versus Kings just because I want to see an NBA basketball game. It's still really high. Yes. I appreciate it. But when we consider greats, and someone like Penn, whereas you compare him to someone like Cejudo, who doesn't make my list, but like, by all intents and purposes, the dude quit or quote unquote retired at the right time, had like the right context around all of his fights, is an Olympic gold medalist, has all of these other outside stuff that then contributes to the fight,
Yes. Cejudo, that's rare. Nobody. I have a weird feeling he's going to come back, but as for now, it's hard. It's almost impossible that people leave at the right time, and he did it so far.
I think if he stays out, that it'd be all right. But if you were to, I wouldn't. I mean, you and I wouldn't have a problem if he came back and fought Peter Yan, would you?
No, but I'd also not have I wouldn't have a problem if he didn't come back. No, but here, this last little bit about BJ Penn. He was also back in his time. He, as far as like accolades, he was only the second fighter to win a belt in multiple weight classes. He didn't hold them at the same time, but he was the first. He was the second to ever do it, and with Randy Couture being the first, and from a global influence standpoint, BJ Penn was the poster. He was the poster boy
of that kind of era.
That era, but for lighter weight fights or lighter weight fighters, he was the one that showed everyone like, hey, lightweight fighters are exciting.
Are exciting too. Yeah, that's crazy because
he was the guy. Yeah.
Interesting. So that's like one of the shifts right there where, it started to go from like heavier to kind of lighter focus.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if you think about it, now everyone can appreciate all the weight classes. I mean, except for flyweight because they're boring, but that's another, because no one cares. I'm sorry, they're not boring. It's just that no one cares. But every weight class has excitement now, All
right, so you got BJ Penn at 4.
BJ Penn, baby J.
I don't know how I really don't know how I wanted to structure this because freaking, again, recency bias, and you may get on me for this.
I'm not gonna get on it. I want to hear. I want to know.
Yeah. So the number 4, I just know you have him probably somewhere between 1 or 2 or 3, just whatever, right?
Okay.
I got John Jones at number 4.
Ooh, John Jones.
Now, I'll say what I say. It's just like, I think you could make a case that he is just record alone the greatest of all time. Just like his record alone, unblemished. His one DQ against Matt Hall. I mean, most people consider that like a really questionable.
No, what's his name? I always call him Mark Hamill, but his name is not Mark.
Oh, no, Hamill. Yeah, Matt Hamill. I'm sorry. Yeah, Matt Hamill.
Matt Hamill.
Yeah.
Yeah. Matt the Hammer Hamill.
I mean, just his. He also has an interesting storyline coming into it. He's got 2 brothers in the NFL, 2 Super Bowl winners, I think, right?
I think
One of them.
I think
One of them is a Super Bowl with the Ravens.
But either way, both of them played in the NFL. Like that's a stud family, man. Just
they had an all-out fight. I don't know. I don't specifically know if he wins or not, just because they're huge and strong. But
there's some big boys.
There's some big boys. Yeah, John Jones at 4. I know you have a lot more to say about him, but the reason I put him in number 4, record aside, is just because, sadly, is because of all the antics. That have happened with him. Like every single fighter from 3 to 1 for me.
Yeah.
Unblemished, kind of really almost pure. Okay, maybe one of them not, but like John Jones at number 4 for me, just because. Again, he's one of those reoccurring names in both good and bad lights, you know?
Yeah.
If he's on a really good light, it doesn't take much for him to, suddenly go down. He's kind of two-faced when it comes to the media and how he markets fights. Yeah, I don't. John Jones, he's frustrating. He's the most controversial superstar in the sport, like in a really annoying way for a lot of UFC fans. Wouldn't you argue? Just because.
It's frustrating, man. This guy literally has it all. He has every tool to be the greatest of all time, and easily the greatest of all time. And I think Chael Sonnen put it best. Like, this guy needs to just accept who he is, because John Jones he's not a perfect dude. First of all, no one's perfect, but stop trying to portray this image. It's so fake. And just be yourself. Be the party animal. Be the dude that does, cocaine on the weekend before you fight Daniel Cormier. Be that guy, and people are gonna like you more. Genuine.
So just own it. So just own it, basically.
Just own it. Exactly. This dude. There's a reason. Like, people, especially fighters, they're not normal. They're not like how. These aren't normal people. These are wild people, and it's okay if you want to party here and there, because you're a fighter. You're the greatest light heavyweight champion of all time. Like, you're allowed to be a little weird, crazy, Yeah.
My one thing with him, though, is despite his success at it, I don't think the dude should go up to heavyweight, even though it would be a draw for him to go up and fight Francis Ngannou. It's just just his build just doesn't, at least with the eye test, I know he beat Cormier. Like, wow, that's twice. And it's just, even though he was DQ'd somewhat for the second one.
One fight, he beat him on picos, baby. They call it picos. A grain of salt in an Olympic-sized pool. Whatever that means, John. But
John Jones, very frustrating, but you have to put him up there. And I wouldn't honestly have a problem if you put him as number 1, just because of his. Yeah. If we're going off the sport alone, just in its rawness. Yeah, John Jones. Like, what else can you say?
Yeah.
Right? All right.
And wait, actually, I was
going
to add in because you brought up how you said you don't think it's a good idea. He's to heavyweight.
Yeah, just because I feel like he this is where my quote unquote bro science comes into play. I just feel like he took all that, the doping or whatnot, just so that he could go to heavyweight, just so that he could sustain at heavyweight. Whereas lightweight, he owns it. That is him.
Yeah. Yeah. This dude, to quote my boy Brennan Schaub, John Jones is at the point now where he doesn't care. He nothing is motivating him. He's not interested to fight these guys at light heavyweight. He's literally playing with his food. He's come off a loss. Well, not a loss. It could have been a loss to what's his name? Who's the last guy he defended against? I don't even know the guy's name. Dominic Reyes.
Yeah.
Right? Dominic Reyes. They went to a split decision. You could
I feel like Reyes could have won. Yeah. Dominic.
Yeah, he could have won. It's arguable, but also, who's really itching for that rematch? Nobody cares. John Jones doesn't even care. Like, no one, even though the fight is close, if there's a close title fight, everyone's going to want a rematch. No one's asking for a rematch for this because no one cares anymore. John Jones needs to be motivated. He needs to fight these guys that are, allegedly bigger. I think John Jones will be fine at heavyweight size-wise, but he needs to. So
you'd rather see him go up?
He needs to. He needs to be threatened. He needs to be a little worried. So his training is a little different. So he's sharper and better. And
you don't see a scenario where he could go down to middle and fight Adesanya, or Adesanya would come up?
No, Adesanya has to fight at 205. John Jones ain't making 185 unless he goes by his nickname and goes down to Bones, dare I say.
Do you think any of those scenarios is possible where Adesanya could come up and fight him?
Yeah, Adesanya would come up. Yeah. Oh man, I love that dude. I would.
So while we're on, okay, I'm gonna leave Jones off a little bit because I know. Do you have him? Do you have him in the next 3?
He's in here.
Okay, we'll leave it now.
Spoiler alert.
Spoiler. We'll leave fights that we should see, and then more so on him for now. But let's go to number 3. Sure.
Number 3.
Did you go? For number
I went.
Yeah.
I went first last time.
I can go. BJ. I can go now. Number 3. I have Amanda Nunes. Yeah. There's again like not much you can say, but this time around, she's like the complete polar opposite of John Jones, where she's seemed to own. She's not perfect. You know, she's had a couple of losses in her career, but she's almost kind of like the girl/woman equivalent of Tony Ferguson, where no one wants to fight her, and she's been on an unbelievable streak for however long now.
Right? Yep.
It's just like undisputedly, she's the best female athlete in the world. And you know, fight after fight. I mean, she dismantled the most popular woman fighter at the time in Ronda Rousey in really kind of dominant fashion. Probably, I'd say between Holm and Nunes, the way they took out, I mean, you probably have to give the edge to Holm and just that kick to the head, but Nunes. If Holm wounded Rousey, I feel like Nunes put her in the ground, just like put her in the coffin as far as like greatest fighters or whatnot. But yeah, Nunes. I mean, what more can I say? She's the greatest female fighter of all time, and she's like her attitude was like one of the best.
Yep. And another thing, I hate, look, I get all my information from Uncle Chill. So Uncle, the thing about he was mentioning, the thing about the women's, what is it called? 145. Geez. Oh, the women's featherweight division. It's so shallow to where literally, if you want a title shot, all you have to do is just raise your hand, and ain't nobody raising their hand. Nobody wants to fight Amanda Nunes. She is. Yeah. I
feel like the one person who does is not in the UFC.
Who?
Chris
Cyborg.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, she did. I mean, that's another can of worms.
Would Shevchenko ever dream of it? Is there ever a chance they could?
Shevchenko, they need to fight. I believe they fought twice already. But if you watch the second fight, the second time they fought, I mean, it's arguable that Shevchenko won. Like that could be
a sell. Right?
That could be it. But it's gonna be it's rough. It's rough to sell a third fight when one of the fighters is 2-0. It's just a rough sell. So maybe down the line, a few more years, a few more title defenses from, by Shevchenko, maybe they could run it back. But
yeah, I just feel like her name. I just feel like her name and her draw. Like if I kind of dread the day where Amanda. Because right now it doesn't seem like Amanda wants to retire. She just wants to continue dominating and But like, what else is there for her to do besides? I don't know. If some state wants to be crazy and sanction a fight with a dude, maybe that would be fun. But that's me going out of my way to like how she is so dominant. What are you gonna do to make like that whole division interesting? Whereas you look at strawweight, you got a 4-horse race, 5-horse, counting Suarez. Like, you got, so I'm kind of, it's kind of that catch-22 situation. It's like, man, I wish there was more competition for her, but undisputedly, she's the best female athlete on the planet, best female fighter of all time.
Yes.
What else can you say?
See, the thing about that, first of all, it's not like she she's the greatest of all time. And it's not like she's that, and she's like, her career is dwindling down. She's still in her peak and in her prime. Like you're not going to retire off of just no interesting matchups or whatnot. So I say, why not just add to your legacy and just stack title defenses?
And the thing is, we've seen her. I mean, from the martial arts side of things, we've seen her defend it, and we've seen her on all fronts. You know, she's defended it striking. She's defended it on the ground. She's defended it up against the cage. Like every single scenario, tick, 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 tick. Like I have no problem, honestly, if someone put her at number 2. I wouldn't.
For, what do you mean? Number 2 is greatest of all time?
Or like she's, maybe I'm exaggerating there, but like no one would argue with you if you put her in the top 5 or top 10, right?
No,
would you agree?
No.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just like
no one's gonna argue that.
Maybe it's due to my recency thing as well. Just like recency bias. Just she honestly is the most, since watching the UFC, she's been the most dominant of all these other fighters, aside from John Jones, maybe. But
because you got to remember too, before she fought Chris Cyborg was the scariest fighter, like male or female. Yeah. She was the scariest fighter, and I'm not just going off by looks. I'm saying, I'm kidding. That's
man, she got with Tito Ortiz. You can't.
Yeah,
it doesn't hold as much weight anymore. But
yeah. Nobody wanted to fight Chris Cyborg. And Amanda Nunes was like, I'll do it. I take it to fight. Yeah, a double champion. Yeah,
that's what I love too. She'll take any fight. And she's one of those pure out like sports competitors where she will compete against anybody and not make a big deal about the money about it. You know, she'll either that or the UFC is paying her really well, probably.
Yeah, right? Well, yeah. The all champions get paid well, so I mean that's a thing now. But with back to Chris Cyborg being the scariest fighter in the world. Not only did they fight, but Amanda Nunes knocked her out in the first round.
Mm-hmm.
That's
knocked her out in the first round. Just I want to see a rematch. Somehow I wish we can wish and pray that Chris Cyborg and Dana White will.
It's gonna be tough. It'll be tough.
Yeah. All right. So that's my number 3. Who's yours?
Okay. Oh, my number 3. I'm gonna go with Anderson the Spider Silva.
Okay.
You know that guy? You heard of that guy?
I think I do. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. UFC. It's hard to say his name without saying UFC. The Spider.
Yeah. That's an easy one. Anderson
Silva at number 3. Give me some reasons.
Oh, for starters, he I guess before Demetrius Johnson, he was the record holder for most title defenses, and I think he has the record for most wins in a row in the UFC. I mean, this dude, he was that fighter where, well, first of all, look, his base is he's a kickboxer, jiu-jitsu, not so much wrestling in a sport that's dominated by wrestlers. And this dude he was the first fighter where it's like you saw somebody in the Matrix, it was cartoonish the way that he beat people up.
Yeah, it was weird.
It was weird. Like you see first of all, he bursted in the scene right away. He fought this guy Chris Lieben. Back in the day, he's a Ultimate Fighter season 1 alumni, but he was known to be this tough, like grind out, brawler, Chris Lieben. And then Anderson Silva's first fight in the UFC. Literally knocked this dude out with 100% accuracy. Like every strike that he threw landed. And then catapulted into a title shot immediately. And that's, and for however many years, never look back. And the way that he was that champion that he finished people, he made it exciting, and it didn't look real. It was video game stuff. It was like kung fu movie type stuff,
Yeah, that's another category of fighters that that comes to mind. These not kung fu, but like freaking like mythic style fighting. When you see them, it's either their athletic prowess or their style. So Silva is definitely one of those. Like, wow, like
he's like, okay, I'm sure you've seen his highlights, dude. He front kicked Vitor Belfort in the face, like a front kick.
Vitor Belfort do that too.
Yeah, and he went through a slump. When I say a slump, I mean like maybe not as motivated. Because when you're the champion forever, you lose motivation or you lose something. But I remember he had a string of like 2 fights, or I think it was the Talis latest fight. It was just a boring, unanimous decision that he easily could have won. And I think Dana White was annoyed by it. So in a way to punish him, and let's not forget, Anderson Silva went up to 205 pounds as well. And I think a way to punish him, Dana White set him up to fight Forrest Griffin at 205.
Mm-hmm.
And the way Anderson knocked him out, it was like embarrassing. Like he hit him with a jab walking backwards as Forrest Griffin was coming in to strike him, and knocked him out like that. Like that, you can't make this stuff up.
He's just so lanky.
Yeah, he was just that guy where it was like watching a ninja. He was that guy, and he was that good.
Mm-hmm.
And when he through frustration, there was the Damian Maia fight that was very frustrating. Dana White was pissed. And what does he do? He wants him to fight Chael Sonnen. Dana White probably wanted Anderson Silva to lose because he was sick of his tactics, Yeah. And he sends Uncle Chael on him, and Chael, I was there for that fight, by the way.
Yes, you were there. Yeah.
UFC 117.
Well, bring us there. Take us there.
I could not talk. It was the first ever UFC event in Oakland. It was at the Oracle Arena.
Wow.
And I swear I could not talk. I couldn't talk for like 2 days because I lost my voice.
Where were you? Where were you in the building? Were you like super at top, or did you have relatively good seats?
It was really we had really good seats.
Wow.
I think we paid like $250 for the seats, which was a lot at a time.
Which is now I will pay $250 to see a UFC title fight.
Yeah,
easy.
that was wild, and everybody was ready for him to lose. Like Chael Sonnen was the guy.
Mm-hmm.
You talking trash, backing it up, and not only was he dominating him, but at first he dominated Anderson Silva on the feet through strikes, which is unheard of. Chael Sonnen, watch his boxing. He ain't good at it, And for whatever reason during the fight, losing my voice, and I just kept telling myself, like, he could pull this off. He might pull it off. Like every time a round ends, fight starts on the feet.
Mm-hmm.
He can pull it off. And then by the 5th round, when he was exhausted, Chael Sonnen down, and I was, that's it. Anderson Silva finally dethroned. No.
Nope.
That was wild.
Yeah.
But Anderson Silva, that's
So what was it like seeing him in person? Because do you think the whole debate of is it better to watch it a sport like UFC or MMA where it's caged and it's kind of obstructive of view? This is my minor topic, but I think it's interesting. Like, were you able to pick up on how fast these guys are? Because when you go to an NBA game, they run, so you're given some frame of reference, but you're watching a cage. So what was it like watching him in person?
They're bigger in person.
Oh yeah,
they seem bigger. They're much faster in person.
Mm-hmm.
But as far as like what I would rather do, I'd rather watch it like from home. Mm-hmm. At a bar or at a friend's house or something, because no matter how close you are, and we had good seats, no matter how close you are, you kind of catch yourself
looking at the screen,
viewing through the screen. Yeah. But as far as like, there's nothing as far as atmosphere of the event. It's
it's one of those that I have to go to. I want to.
Yeah, you got to do at least one. It's so. Can't explain it, dude. It's so emotional, and the people that are near you become best friends with them, and you're like you're talking to the people next to you, you're clenching their shoulders. I'm only saying,
Did you go alone?
Around me. I went to UFC 225 by myself in Chicago.
No. I'm talking the Anderson Silva and
I went with
who'd you go with?
It was like two of my friends and then my girlfriend at the time, Kimberly.
That would have been
she was a trooper that day because she was sick and she still went. But that was I literally couldn't talk for the next 2 days. My voice was gone.
Consider me jealous, man. That's the Euvisionist history right there.
I was talking about this with you last time you were visiting here because I was at that fight, which I think was voted fight of the year, and then a couple years later I went to. In San Jose, it was Dan Henderson versus Shogun, which ended up being the fight of the year also. So these two events I went to, I'm like,
you got it, man. You got those two, which is why again, like you've got that tenure with the UFC, man. You've got some history with it. Okay, so Anderson's the Spider Silva.
Anderson, we are on number 3. Oh, we're moving on. That's right. You had John Jones as your. Oh no, Amanda Nunes.
Yeah, I had Amanda Nunes at 3. You had you had the Spider. My God. Yeah, it's your turn. Number 2. Who do you got at number 2?
My turn. Okay, back to the. Well, I'm not saying back to, but this is kind of a more like a fan.
Sure.
Not nostalgic, but like I'm just a fan of the guy, and I don't care about accolades. I don't care about what. Kind of like the fighter that I'm about to announce. He doesn't care either. His name is Brock Lesnar. Do you know that guy? Yep. Brock Lesnar.
Yeah.
This dude was something else. First of all, he's not from this time actually. I think he went on a time machine a couple hundred years ago. He was a Viking, and they sent him to our time, so they can show how physically dominant these humans are.
Really, is that much for you?
Brock Lesnar, yeah.
I mean that much because he did. I think I know why too for you, but keep going.
Yeah, but no, from a, well, I guess just like a fanboy nostalgic standpoint, I was a huge wrestling, WWE fan.
Exactly, I knew it. Yeah, and why not? Yeah.
And I was just casually into MMA. This is back during like the slow decline of Chuck Liddell and Randy Couture was on top back then. But this was, I was just watching it here and there, knew nothing about it really, or not enough to know about it. And then I find out Brock Lesnar is going to fight in the UFC. So he was the guy that got me like fully into it, because you have to be into it. If you're a fan of someone, you watch events, you learn a little bit about every other fighter or every other fight on a card and whatnot.
Yeah.
Oh, I forgot that that's bad etiquette.
No, you.
No, good. I need to do not disturb my phone.
That's fine.
Brock Lesnar is responsible for me going in all the way deep in MMA. Brock Lesnar was the guy. His only, I mean, it's a good accolade. His only way in, or the reason why he was able to be a fighter, was because he was just a stud wrestler back in college. He was a Division I national champion. Like, that was his base. And if you watch his striking, it's terrible. But he literally went in with just a wrestling criteria.
And he was able to be. Was he ever a champion? He was champion, right? At some point.
Oh yeah, he fought for the title. He fought Randy Couture for the title in only I believe it was his 4th MMA fight ever. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And coming off a 1-fight winning streak. This guy beat some dude in Japan, Do Ho Choi or something. He beat him, fought Frank Mir, lost, beat Keith Haring. So that's his 1-fight winning streak. Mm-hmm. And then catapulted to fight Randy Couture for the heavyweight championship, which he won.
Mm-hmm.
Brock Lesnar is the guy. Yeah.
Yeah. Now that I think about it, kind of like similar to Conor McGregor and Chuck Liddell, and even more so probably for Brock, just because he came over from WWE. That's a huge. Talk about the melding of universes kind of coming together. Yeah. This guy brought over a ton of fans from the WWE, in some ways maybe even legitimized some of the WWE in terms of like how physically talented some of these people are.
Yeah, but I mean, WWE guys aren't fighters. Like, let's be clear.
How many other of them are fighters? So Brock Lesnar, there's got to be more, right? There's got to be a slew of others that we just don't know about. Like Dave Bautista, maybe, or
there was Brock Lesnar. No, it's just Brock Lesnar. There was Ken Shamrock, but he was always a fighter before because Ken Shamrock was in the WWF too briefly. Mm-hmm. But no one. I mean, there's CM Punk, but that's not even a discussion. That was literally I knew
we were going to talk about it at some point.
Either way, I'm a fan of his. I'm a huge fan of CM Punk. I've always been. I freaking worked. In Chicago, I worked like 2 or 3 doors away from where he lived. I saw this dude every day.
Constantly. Yeah.
I saw this dude constantly.
I saw him. He was walking his dog, I think. I remember.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah.
UFC 225 was in Chicago. The one that I went to had Colby Covington, RDA, interim title. Okay. And then you got freaking Yoel Whitaker main event. I literally went to that event only for CM Punk.
And you left before the Colby. Did you watch Colby?
No, I stayed for Colby. I love that fight. But
you left for the Whitaker and Romero.
Yeah, I don't care about that. I'm out of here.
I can't believe you did that. I can't. If I was there, I would have made your ass stay, man. Like that. That's...
Oh no, I mean, I would have. If we went together, of course we're gonna watch it. We're gonna stay for that.
I can't believe you left. Maybe you tried to leave because of the traffic. Maybe, I don't know. You didn't have a car either. You just wanted to get out there.
I don't care. What was it?
Eric, but it was another UFC fight, man. It's just more fights to watch.
And, you all missed weight. The title wasn't really on the line. I don't care. I'm out of there. Thanks, UFC. I'm sorry. What are we talking about? We're talking about Brock Lesnar. Yeah. He's the guy that came in, minimal experience in fighting, is a heavyweight champion, and you're not going to take that away from him. Like that's
what's one fight that you'd have to recommend for him?
For him, geez, I'd say Brock Lesnar, Frank Mir 2, their rematch, UFC 100, which at the time was the highest selling pay-per-view of all time. And don't forget, Brock Lesnar he's a pay-per-view
absolutely monster. He's a draw.
Oh, he's selling. Yeah, he's a draw. Brock Lesnar, Frank Mir 2 for the heavyweight championship, UFC 100. That was just a good show of Brock Lesnar kind of putting it all together, but just showing his using his physical dominance. That was a good one. There's Shane Carwin, UFC 116, but that fight was it showed Brock Lesnar coming back from adversity, but not, yeah.
It's just a shame that the one fight that people really wanted to see just never came to fruition. The whole
DC?
Yeah. That would have been insane. That would have given wrestling just a whole new.
Yeah.
And right around the time they were supposed to fight, quote unquote, was when Khabib had just beaten Conor. So it just whole wrestling, the power of wrestling. Mm-hmm. Just, that would have. Dude. Wrestling would have been fought to the forefront like Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu was earlier in UFC history and whatnot.
Yeah. See, and look, Dana White hates nothing more than one-offs. Mm-hmm. When I say one-offs, like GSP, he returned. It's great. It's a great story. This dude returned. Yeah. The longtime welterweight champion comes back, challenges Michael Bisping, and wins the middleweight championship, but bounces. Dana White hates that. Mm-hmm. But Brock Lesnar, DC, you don't know what's going to happen if Brock win or lose. Is he going to fight again? Yeah. But guaranteed, I bet Dana White's like, let's do it. Let's do it.
He has the hardest job. He has the best job. He is the hardest job. You kind of feel for him. Brock Lesnar.
It's unfortunate. Yeah, it's unfortunate because it never came to fruition. I don't know how. It's a lot of technology to hide all those steroids that he did. Or steroids that he's on. Oh, I love that dude, man. That dude's a monster. Oh. All
right.
But that's my dude. Number 2, Brock Lesnar. Brought me into MMA.
Number 3.
I'm sorry. Wait, no, number 2.
Who's your number 3?
Anderson Silva.
Number 2. Okay, fine. Okay. Cool. So number 2. Okay, this is where I throw my top 2 out there. I don't really know how to rank these next 2. You kind of talked about Anderson Silva already.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm gonna Anderson Silva probably number 2 for me, just because when I was in 8th grade or not, he was the name. Like, if aside from, how do I frame this? With combat sports, anything outside of basketball for me was like, I don't really pay attention to it, right? But Anderson Silva was one of those guys that if he was on TV, I would watch. In high school, it's just like, whoa, like this guy is just more hearkening on everything you said. He was just very, he had the kung fu movie kind of flair, but then he also, but the one thing I do remember about him too is I remember that one fight that he had his leg just like completely he had that one injury. Do you remember?
Chris Weidman too.
It was pretty ugly, man.
I remember I had a few, whiskeys, but I remember being so sad walking home after watching that fight. I think I almost cried. Like, my girlfriend at the time, and I almost cried because he broke his leg.
No, but what a tragic way to go out. But I still don't. Chris Weidman too. That was just that was honestly one of my first impressions, sadly, of Anderson Silva. But it still doesn't take away from any of the other fights I saw him in. It was just, this was James. This was me in high school at the time. Just like, whoa. Yeah. Or beginning college at the time was, wow. This is
he was a video game character, literally a video game character.
This might be something. It was maybe one of the first times where it watching anything else other than basketball started to occur to me. Like, you know what? If basketball ever becomes stale, I think I might switch over to this sport, because this sport actually seems interesting. Yeah. And Silva was one of those guys that, and I mean, aside from the personal effect, his record and just everything, his raw fighting records, it's just, I have no problem putting him at number one. This number one, just like, for me right now, it's a toss up. Number one, number two. I have no idea who to go.
Because, Anderson Silva, like John Jones, has that asterisk. They're in the GOAT conversation, but there's that asterisk.
There's that asterisk.
Of PED usage.
Yeah, there's not much I can say. Yeah, Anderson Silva at number two, just because of impact and then his record. And then honestly, you pretty much capped it on Silva. You've seen the freaking person in person.
It's just it's just like there's certain you want somebody to have a career or have a path in sports. If you're a fan of it, you want them to have this almost like magical, like unreal, untouchable career. You want to live through that, and you want to see them be the best possible. And like the Anderson Silva was that guy for the longest time. He was just untouchable.
Yeah, and in a sport like mixed martial arts, that's just exceedingly rare.
Yes,
it's so rare to be undefeated.
And not only undefeated, but to be undefeated through different eras too. Like his title reign, I think it was like 2 different eras of fighters. Like these are, like the sport evolves, every year and whatnot. And this is why it's so impressive to be a champion for a long time. Like any champion, not just Anderson Silva, but this dude did it through different phases and different generations.
Yep. So Anderson Silva at number two, which brings us to number one.
I think before we should probably, like, first off, whose turn is it? Is it mine? No, it's yours.
Oh yeah, sure. I forget. I think it's mine.
I think we should guess each other's number one, because I think I know who your number one is.
Well, you already kind of. I'm sorry, but you already kind of reviewed it earlier on. Like I asked where Jones was, if Jones was even in your top four. John Jones is number one for you.
Okay.
And for me, this is gonna be more of a dig at you. This is gonna be a bunch of questions coming your way. Okay, but who do you think my number one is?
When it's
not a personal pick. It's not a personal pick, by the way.
When it's in season, it's Khabib time. If it's off season, it's tiramisu time, baby.
I wanted him. I wanted to put him.
Khabib's not your number one?
I wanted to put him there. I wanted to.
Okay.
I wrote on my list. It was initially I had this dude and Khabib as a toss up at number 3, but then I sort of switched things around. Khabib, it only because his career isn't over yet. Only because like it isn't. We haven't had that finality to his career. If he retires undefeated, he's my personal favorite fighter.
Easily. But he's fighting like Gaethje can beat him. It's possible.
They're not fighting. I don't think they're fighting this year though. Everything with Adomanab is just like I think. It might take some time.
He broke his silence. That they're gonna fight in September.
Really? Because I think we've conflicting articles, because I saw one today saying they're not going to. But who knows? Never
mind.
Like, it's
never
like
mind. You
Khabib.
That's more recent than when I saw it.
That's that's another draw. But Khabib is a shoe. I think I feel like we got to talk about him anyway. I know he doesn't quite make the list yet. Only because his career
King didn't make it on James's list.
And
not mine.
But the person who did, the person who objectively I had to put there, was the guy that Khabib wants to fight in order to cement his career, is GSP, the sexy George St. Pierre, which is honestly, I'm not fronting. I don't know enough about him. I've seen him minimum. I haven't seen him nearly enough during my time as a real fan, but like Everything about his record and the fact that he has a clean, 2-time welterweight, 1-time middleweight, clean doping record. None.
Yes.
And then 2 losses from 2002 to 2017. What? Just like you take Tony Ferguson 8-year run and you magnify that by however long. Yeah, you have GSP, who by the way is clean.
Yes.
Antics here and there, but like, come on. And he is a draw. He is regarded by many as as probably the greatest of all time.
Yes.
I don't know, but how much I can say about him. But like, why? Me having limited experience watching him, why would someone put him in the top? Why should someone put him in the top, in your opinion? What else?
No, everything you just named. Okay, you mentioned the 2 losses, right? This is also why losses don't really matter in MMA. This guy has 2 losses. Matt Hughes, Matt Serra. Guess what he did with those? He avenged the Matt Hughes loss twice.
Mm-hmm.
He beat Matt Hughes twice after that. And he avenged his loss against Serra also. Like these are fights that he got back and he won. And a lot of these, not only did he, I hate that I always quote Chael and Joe Rogan, but not only did GSP defend against the whole division, there's some fighters that he did it twice against. Like he's making his rounds,
Mm-hmm.
He made his rounds. This guy was the fighter that was super disciplined, super athletic, and smart, like did everything right. Very honorable, polite, dude.
That's another reason I put him there. It's just because he's relatable.
Obsessed, obsessive about it. And after all these years, like just hearing him talk about fighting, he just openly admits that he was frightened every single time he fought. He was scared to death. His anxiety was like a lot of fighters go through that, or some, a lot, actually no, a lot, and a lot are just psychos and they just want to fight. But GSP openly admitted that he was scared to death every fight, every time he fought.
Do you think that's because losing was just not a normal thing for him? Like he barely lost, and it was always like this mounting kind of thing where with champions, it's just that mounting anxiety every single time you have to defend. It's like this pressure, or was it just anxiety of the night? Because there's 2 different levels.
He didn't always win growing up. He didn't win. He wasn't a winner. He was bullied. He's lost so many times, but as far as MMA record, he's the ultimate winner.
Yeah. GSP though, I had to put him in number 1 if you're just considering everything. That I've seen. I know who your number 1 pick is, but just like clean doping, which is huge in the like post USADA reign of like freaking USADA doping thing or whatnot. You have to put him. Yeah, and the only reason Khabib isn't up there yet is because his career isn't over.
Yeah,
that's
correct.
That for me, that's
dude. No, GSP was I don't know. Like, there's nobody more disciplined and good, literally good at everything than GSP. Like his only knocks, his knocks, but he's literally like his fights. I wouldn't want to say they're boring, but he's so good at strategy. His team. He's so good at strategy, but he would never finished his fights. They were always
decisions.
There were always decisions, which I kind of there's some resentment for that, but also that's just like kind of like an ignorant, bro-y type way to look at a fight. Like, oh, you got to finish him or whatnot. GSP was a draw, especially the Canadian community.
Yeah. But he's also a draw amongst the female community. Yeah, from what I've seen.
oh yeah, he's a dimey for sure. He's a good looking dude.
Paulo Costa may be the only guy I think that can like rank up in terms of like body and freaking whatnot.
I don't know, man. GSP's up there, dude, when he wears those tights. But GSP, he's like literally like the epitome of just excellence and putting everything together. He was.
Do you think he's done?
The guy.
Do you think he's actually done? Like he's never gonna come back?
Yeah, he's done. And also that's another one. Like Henry Cejudo, GSP is someone that he walked out on top. There's no questions. He didn't try to go through a run. He didn't try to collect a bunch more belts or whatnot or get another title run on him. He walked away on top.
Good for him.
And not only that, when there's so much there's so much leverage that you have when you're a champion, as far as like money or renegotiating or whatnot, or even hoarding the belt, hanging on to it, clogging up the division, not clogging up, but like not having the division move on. And when GSP won the middleweight title, I think he had it for what, like a month maybe, and he just, and instead of just hanging on to it, and when he just he vacated it. That's a very honorable thing to do.
I'd like to believe, he's probably done for, but can you imagine the bounty that would be on him if he suddenly came back? Just feel like Conor would want to fight him, Khabib would want to fight him,
everyone would want to fight him.
It just,
and I don't think, I mean, even no matter how good the talent is now, I don't think it's gonna tarnish, it's not gonna really challenge GSP's legacy. It's not gonna be, well, he didn't fight this person.
Okay, well, that being said, who would you want to see him fight if he came back for one more? That last one,
man.
That last one.
I would like. I don't care about the titles, man. I want that big money. I would fight
Conor McGregor. All right.
It would be Conor. I don't know. I can't answer that. I have like 3 answers, so I'll just say Conor.
Yeah, you know me. It'd be Khabib just to complete that.
It would be Khabib. Yeah.
Complete that arc.
Yeah.
Khabib. Complete that arc. All
That'll
right.
be it.
So that's my pick. GSP is at number 1. You have none other.
Oh
than
yeah,
John
obviously,
Bones Jones.
John Bones Jones, man. No question. Yeah, he's got that. God, he's such a.
He's so frustrating. I tell you, he's frustrating.
So frustrating.
He's annoying.
It's hard to be it's so hard to be this guy's fan, but I mean, you look at what he's done. Not only
in the amount of time that he's done it too.
In the amount of time that he's done it, at the age that of his rise, it's not even like he dominates these guys. It's not, these fights aren't, really competitive, for the most part. The way that he did it, he's undefeated. He really is undefeated, of course, Mark, no one, no one counts that a Camel loss, but like the way John Jones does it, he's exciting, he's dominant, he's like, there's nobody like him. He's the record holder for, because they always talk, pound for pound, that's always a discussion. And if that were, I think pound for pound is silly, but if we were to have that discussion, John Jones is the guy, because not only has he done what everyone else has done in the pound for pound conversation, but he's done it more dominant than any of them.
Yeah.
Like no one in the, and also, obviously, featherweights aren't going to fight heavyweights, but John Jones is literally the only guy in the world. Nobody can beat him up. Nobody at any weight. Who can beat John Jones? You know what I mean?
Francis Ngannou.
Okay, yes, that's an argument, but I'm saying.
I know, yeah, I do.
Sure,
I do know
that's arguable.
If we're you mentioned pound for pound, yeah, I gotta agree with you there. Like, it's just, he can defend. If you want to talk about this
at
every level,
like Max Holloway and DC. Max Holloway jokes about wanting to fight DC all the time. Max Holloway might have better skills in certain areas. He's not going to beat up DC.
He ain't beating up DC. Yeah,
that's an example. Fuck. Nobody can beat up John Jones.
Yeah, a
motivated John Jones.
Like, if John Jones, we texted earlier today, but yeah, Mike Tyson, he's trying to come back. He's coming back. Hey, guess what? If Mike Tyson in his prime wanted to fight John Jones, guess what? John Jones could take him, just like in an all-out kind of fight. And John Jones would probably win, Yeah. All things considered.
John Jones, all he has, throw 3 leg kicks and that's it. It's over. Maybe 1 leg kick.
No, you're talking about him like he's the baddest man. He's the baddest man on the planet, which he probably is.
It's always, the heavyweight champion of whatever sport or whatever fighting sport is always going to be the baddest man on the planet. Mm-hmm. Who's the heavyweight champion right now? Stipe Miocic, yeah?
Yep.
John Jones and Stipe Miocic fights. Do you think John Jones wins? Like, who do you think is going to win?
My hat's off to Stipe just because he's been in the division. He's like comfortable within that division. Same goes for Ngannou. Like, again, like I don't know. I'm the weird one out here. Just with John Jones, just he does not look comfortable. He might be motivated. He might be he might actually have like passion to fight at that level. not level. He might actually have passion to fight at that division. He's gone after Wyatt. He's gone after the UFC. Let me fight. Pay me to fight at heavyweight.
Yeah,
but like
that's a whole nother. I mean, that
the stuff that we have seen from him at heavyweight is just it's I don't want to say it's uncomfortable to see him, because of course I'd want to see him fight Ngannou. Of course, you put that in a card with like. You imagine if they did that with whenever Gaethje is going to fight Khabib. What in your opinion? What takes the main? They're both main events. You can't even call one co-main. It's just like two. Like,
it would be the John Jones one. John Jones.
That's
for
ridiculous.
Sure. Traditionally, if there's two title fights or if there are multiple title fights, usually the heavier title goes first, unless you're Conor McGregor.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I mean, dude, if there's whatever you're seeing from John Jones that you might think is lacking right now, or it's only because he doesn't care. He's not threatened by these fighters. He's not motivated.
Scary. Well,
he's not motivated. If he's scheduled to fight Francis Ngannou, we're gonna see the best John Jones possible.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we'll see, man. I mean, a little bit down the line, you'll see.
I feel I wouldn't strictly speaking, I wouldn't be opposed to a Reyes rematch, just because I think Reyes, honestly, you could have given him that fight via split decision.
You could say he won. Also, I don't know, man. It's just my opinion, and I think it's, from what I've seen, I think it's most other people's opinions too. Nobody cares. No one cares to watch.
Yeah.
And let's say if they were to, all this doubt, like that's what's going to drive John Jones also. Like if we see a Reyes-Jones rematch, you're going to see different John Jones, because he's probably sick of just hearing.
Just the same way Gustafsson, the whole Gustafsson
Same with the Gus fight, dude.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't train for the Gus fight and then barely won. You could say Gustafsson won the fight, but they had a rematch and it wasn't close. Yeah. It was a mauling.
Yeah.
A motivated John Jones. I mean, yeah.
Okay, from that perspective, I do actually want to see him go up to heavyweight. if we're talking in circles there, yeah. I hope, but yeah. Predictively, realistically, what do you think will happen for him in the next year and a half? Do you think the UFC will give him that, or do you think it's just going to be a stuck in the mud zone?
Yeah, I would like for it to. I think it's going to be stuck in the mud. I'm not stuck in the mud, but it's not gonna move on, and I think we're gonna wait longer.
Somebody's gonna have to rise up, man. Somebody's gonna have to rise up within that division.
Yeah, someone will.
Interesting.
It's just, and also, unfortunately, John Jones isn't really a pay-per-view draw.
Isn't that wild?
Especially lately. It's crazy.
We're talking about the number one fighter of all time. Yeah.
I mean, if he's fighting, I'm sure Gustafsson too sold. Of course, Chael Sonnen, when he fought Chael Sonnen, that sold. DC, that's it. That's all he's got as far as sales. Yeah. I think he needs. I mentioned this last time on the podcast. John Jones needs to gamble on himself and go up to do one fight at heavyweight, win, and then he'll be like, okay, look, back to renegotiating. You see what I can do. Like, give me more money. Like, he needs to take that gamble on himself, take one for the team, and take a fight at heavyweight at whatever astronomical amount of money he's already paid already,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. Good stuff, man. Top 5.
Jeez.
Yeah. And this is.
Do you want to? I'm sorry. Do you, what are there other things you kind of have lined up, or
not really? I just want to going into Saturday. I just wanted to ask you about one or two matchups that we had. But yeah, anything else you gotta say about?
Yeah. Let's just go through. Let's just name off a few people that didn't make it, which and obviously would make it on anyone else's list.
Obviously would make it on anybody else's list. All right.
Maybe not obviously, but
okay.
Like
I think of fan favorites, right? I think probably Rampage.
Also, actually, I mean, just okay. How about the ones that you were going to choose, but they didn't make it on yours? Not so much like the standard, like everyone else's opinion type thing. I want to know your opinion. Who didn't make it?
Who wouldn't make it on the top 5, but probably the top 10 for me personally would probably be Tony Ferguson.
Oh
yeah, Tony Ferguson is he's so fun to watch.
Oh yeah.
Who else? Daniel Cormier, pretty freaking obvious.
Easy, yeah.
I wouldn't say Jorge. I'd probably say it's tough to say. Tough question.
Khabib.
Yeah, obviously Khabib only because his career isn't done yet. Freaking Adesanya, not yet. Like a lot of fighters that I know, it's like you can't put them there yet. You know, yet. Like whereas okay, we can go back and I don't know, Rampage Jackson. You probably put there Chuck Liddell, obviously.
Chuck Liddell.
Who else? Like
no,
I honestly don't know of any other like fan favorites, or not my personal fan favorites that I'd put up there. It's just because like I want to put if we're talking about fighters right now, I want to put it's too early and I don't even know if he's gonna succeed, but like I don't know why Pablo Costa isn't a bigger draw. That dude is terrifying, you know, but that's just me. He's kind of bringing in that big kind of hulking body UFC era that you know people are drawn to, stuff like that. Who are some fighters undefeated. For you that you undefeated too at that?
Paulo Costa's undefeated, right? Yeah.
Yes, he is undefeated in the UFC, but still.
Yeah, mine are GSP is like at the top. GSP needs to be on anyone's number one or their top three at least. It's got to be GSP, but I just don't have him in there. Just just wasn't didn't connect with me, I guess. But yeah, GSP is definitely one of Randy Couture, you know, the earlier days. He's the dude, he's won 5 UFC championships. Like he was UFC heavyweight champion 3 times, light heavyweight twice. Jose Aldo, and it's unfortunate that you didn't see Jose Aldo at his prime. You know, like we made predictions for the fights a couple weeks ago. And I really wanted Jose Aldo. That dude is a legend.
It's another guy. Dominic Cruz probably another guy, maybe.
You could put Dominic Cruz. You could put Dominic Cruz there.
Cejudo would be another person that you could arguably put up there.
Cejudo's that's one.
Although
and then also just from a global phenomenon standpoint, Ronda Rousey, because you know she for a time before she got exposed that she can't do any stand up, she was dominant. You know, she went on a tear of only first round arm bars. Like it's very impressive. And her, as far as you know, the women, Joanna. You know, there's a time Joanna was dominant and untouchable. Joanna Jędrzejczyk, but I mean, she's trying to figure it out now. And then, do you know Cain Velasquez?
Yes.
Yeah, that guy was. They call him Cardio Cain. This dude, first of all, he's a heavyweight with the gas tank of a lightweight, and he was, you know, it just sucks because I think it's back injuries and neck injuries.
Yeah,
like he just what he did to his body to prepare himself to fight or to be a fighter is what you know was shortened his career. But he was the scariest at one time.
I think of all the fighters I mentioned, I mostly feel for Tony Ferguson just because this is a dude that should have been given the title shot over however many years. And it's just like, it's so unlucky that we are where we are today, where it's just like that. Yeah, it frustrates me so much with Tony.
You know what I want to happen? This would be
but he'll be
the
back.
Dream come true of all. Like, what?
He'll be back. For sure.
He'll be back. What I want to happen, I want Khabib to eventually retire. Let's say he beats Gaethje, retires. We're just making this up, right? Ferguson is going to be lightweight champion eventually. He's one of those guys. I want him and Khabib to never fight each other. Oof. And years down the line, I want them to do a reality show called Khabib and Tony Doing Things. Just like Khabib and Tony, just like buddies. They go swimming or maybe fishing for the first time. They go camping.
You'd rather that than Khabib and Conor?
Khabib and we saw Khabib and Conor already, and I don't think that fight's gonna happen again.
Oh, based on fights we've never seen. Oh, so kind of like them just like doing things like fishing or freaking like reality
just
TV
them,
stuff.
just them being friends. Like years later, after their fighting career's over.
You're talking about two fighters that would never do that.
Oh, I absolutely not. They would never do that.
Ferguson. You have like a shred hope, thin of hope, but Khabib would never do that. Khabib is kind of like, to me, almost kind of like Kawhi Leonard, where he just does his damn job and that's it. He doesn't care about the money. He was offered like $100 million to fight in Abu Dhabi by this one dude, and Khabib was like, "Why? I need money. Why that much money?" You know?
Yeah, he doesn't need money. Like, he fought Conor McGregor. Of course, he made a lot of money for that, but he doesn't need to fight him again. And they're saying it's a big money fight. He doesn't care about money. He beat Conor McGregor, dominated him, and he doesn't need to prove anything with that again.
Yeah. Tony Ferguson, though, he'll be back. Fight that I'd like to see him take immediately after this would probably be. I feel like you got to do it. You got to give him. Do it. Does he want that big money? You know.
Go for Conor. Ferguson, Conor.
Yeah, take it.
We'll see, man.
Do it.
But realistically, I think the best fight would be Ferguson and Poirier.
Yeah, especially after that Hooker beat up. That was amazing.
Yeah, that's it. But I can see it sucks, man. I can see Poirier doing a similar game plan to what Gaethje did.
And succeeding? Because I don't know. Here's the deal, man.
And succeeding. Yeah, I don't know. Dude, Tony Ferguson is scary, man.
Here's the deal. Well, because you could say he was training for a different fighter for years. But it's so frustrating because the thing that you wanted to happen, Semi didn't want to happen, it happened.
Yeah.
Gaethje threw a monkey wrench into everyone's plans. It's just like,
oh yeah. I made that prediction a while. I wanted Gaethje to mess up everybody's story.
You have a weird Stockholm syndrome with messed up matchups, man. Okay.
Because now there's like that mystique is gone. Like Tony Ferguson's win streak is over. I mean, Khabib still has the mystique of being undefeated, but there's no more that magnitude. The magnitude of the fight is just not quite.
I think you could still be there if Tony. I think they will fight, honestly, by the end of. Because Khabib's come out saying a couple of times he wants that fight even as a legacy fight. It will probably still be a title shot. Like, I still feel like Khabib will game plan right for Gaethje, because it's just we've never seen him be stopped in his wrestling aside from Ayakinta, you know. Aside from that decision round, it's just like, and even then it was a decisive. It was pretty consensus. The consensus was that Khabib he ruled that fight, even though it wasn't a submission, you know?
Yeah.
So there you have it. Top 5 and stuff. People we could, if it was a top 10, we'd be here for another 5 hours.
5 hours.
Easily.
Minimum.
But just a little before we go, tomorrow on Saturday, we've got Till and Whitaker as the main event. We've got your boy Fabricio Verdum versus Alexander Gustafsson at heavyweight. The co-main is Rua versus Nogueira.
Nogueira, yes. Little Nog.
Welterweight, Alex Oliveira versus Sabota. That ought to be interesting, in my opinion.
Yeah.
All right, so quick little prediction game. Fights that you care about? You care about Carla Esparza at all? And
Carla Esparza.
Rodriguez.
No. Wait, first of all, is she the one? Is she the wrestler? She's the one that won the straw. Yeah, she's the one that won the Ultimate Fighter, where the winner was a strawweight champion. No, not so much. Her fighting. She's a very good wrestler, grind it out type of fighter. Very boring to watch. Marina Rodriguez. I have no idea who that is. Apparently, she's ranked number 9.
Mm-hmm.
No, none at all. I definitely, of course, the heavyweight fight, Gustafsson coming back from retirement. How often do we say coming back from retirement?
Way too
MMA
way too often.
MMA fighters.
Well, maybe not way too often, but it's
yeah. I mean, I don't know if it's okay. Maybe it's not way too often, but
it's often enough where it doesn't bear any weight, you know.
Yes, yeah, exactly. Like hearing a fighter's retiring, you're just like, okay, fine, whatever you say.
If LeBron wins the championship this year and he says he's retiring, he's not coming back. Like, that's probably it for him.
Oh yeah.
You know, stuff like that.
Well, no, wasn't it a dream of his to play in the league with his son at the same time or something?
That's possible. It is possible.
I mean, that's like
at his physique. It is if he's okay not being the MVP. Yeah, he can play for another 8 years.
Yeah, we'll see. Yeah, so the Verdum Gus fight, I'm excited for that. I just want to see how Gus is going to look. He's going to be faster. Verdum is
slow.
I think he's coming off. He's old.
Coming off that loss
MMA
against Volkov.
Yeah, and also like a 2-year like freaking suspension, something like that.
Yeah.
I
just
Fabricio. He's going to go down. You know, Verdum is one of the guys that's going to go down as, you know, one of the greatest heavyweights of all time. I think Gustafson's going to.
Verdum, man, it's sad that my most notable memory of him is that interaction between him and Tony Ferguson. Just the whole. Man, shut up! I'll ankle pick you.
He said, "I'll ankle pick you." I think he said something along the lines of like, "Have fun fighting on my undercard." Like, oh my god, Tony, you got some cojones on you, buddy.
But who do you got there? You got Gustafson?
Yeah, I got Gus. Yeah, that's definitely the fight I'm definitely the most interested in that.
Really? The main event is pretty interesting to me. Middleweight. I feel like if Till wins, I'm pulling for Till.
Yeah.
Just because if Till can somehow go up and the next fight would be Till versus either Adesanya or Costa, right? That could be.
Oh, you're talking if Till wins against Whitaker?
Yeah.
Oh, this is a number one contender. They're not announcing it as a number one contender fight, but whoever wins this fight is the number one contender for middleweight. Definitely.
Exactly. So like I'm pulling more for Till just because I like his style a little more.
I'm pulling, definitely, Till's style I like more. I'm sure Whitaker's a favorite though.
He is the favorite.
Yeah. I'll go with Darren Till. Yeah, he's more exciting, more charismatic. Robert Whitaker, as quoting Chael Sonnen, with Robert Whitaker, when he enters a room, you can hear a rat piss on cotton. But no, Chael said that about Henry.
Yeah.
But I just don't care. Yeah, the guy that I walked out on main event at UFC in Chicago, I walked out for his fight. I just have no interest in him. Robert Whitaker is a very, very good fighter, though. Mm-hmm. Another reason why I want Darren Till to win is because he can't control how he gets catapulted into stardom and title shots. This happened in the welterweight division. He was catapulted too quick. And now he's in a situation where he's trying to kind of take it slow, moves up to middleweight, beats Gastelum, which is always a contender. And once again, in a situation where he can fight for a title soon, is in a title eliminator.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah,
so I want.
That Gastelum fight was really good, all things considered. It's like you're getting two completely different Gastelums between then and like whoever the hell fought like last week. Just like, whatever the heck.
Gastelum, he needs to just take dieting seriously and just go back down to welterweight. This dude he can lose weight. That dude has like no definition on his body at middleweight. Like, come on, dude. So here because I'm sure you don't know much about the co-main, right? Mauricio Hua versus Nogueira.
The only thing I know about Hua is he at one point fought Jones and lost. That's about it.
Yeah, he won the light heavyweight championship, which everyone expected him to do when he finally made it to the UFC from Pride. He won the title, and unfortunately, his first title defense was against an up-and-coming John Jones.
Yeah. Don't get me wrong. I'll still watch it. I'll still watch like the top three.
Sure. These guys, both are Pride, veterans from Pride, legends, dare I say, but they are literally, as far as MMA years, they are senior citizens. This is the third time they're fighting each other, and it's just they need to wait. First of all, where is the fight taking place? In
this is the Flash Forum.
Oh, in Abu. Oh shoot, they're going to Abu Dhabi.
It's Fight Island,
yes.
Yeah, man, Yaz Island. Get it in. Get your money's worth.
Get it. Yes. They need to retire after this fight. These guys are legends. When I say legends, I mean old. Yeah. They had their time, but they're just kind of dragging it out.
Yeah, hopefully it should be a good event. We might talk about it if anything notable happens. Talk about it next week or some other obscure MMA topic.
This fight card is literally one title shot, like one title fight from it being a pay-per-view. Like that's a decent.
Yeah, it's pretty decent.
Card.
Like I feel one other tidbit. So we got the two bigger events that we know about: Stipe, the trilogy, Stipe. Cormier happening later in the year. Then you got Costa and Adesanya for the middleweight. So all in all, pretty solid year for MMA. Like coronavirus and whatnot. Screw it.
And hey, you know the UFC's got a contract with ESPN and they got to knock out a certain amount of events in the year for them to make their money. So, we're getting UFC shoved down our throat, and I'm loving it.
It's getting more coverage. Like Stephen A. Smith is actually starting to get a little better at covering and talking about it.
He's gonna get better. People can't stop. You know, people.
No, I'm not one of those. I'm not one of those that frustrated with him at all. I love the fact that he's even trying to talk about it.
I know you're not one of those, but this is just going out to to our listeners like Tom. I'm just kidding. But our listeners, people that are just bashing him, like this dude's. There's a reason why he's the highest paid analyst or reporter or whatnot.
He's really good at his job, dude.
Because he's good at his job, and
he's crazy good.
He's gonna get good at MMA.
It's hard to talk about. It's hard to have like a compelling you want to follow that guy or character, to have his body of work. But yeah, final thought. Just do you along the lines of UFC with the ESPN thing, do you think the UFC will pull out one more matchup that we don't know about? Just one more out of its, make it happen for the year. Like one more fight, one more.
Like a big event?
Yeah, that isn't confirmed.
Like a huge event?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, dude. Oh yeah.
And what will that fight be?
They always knock out something huge like end of the year type things. They always knock it out.
What will it be?
There'll be another one, and they're gonna oh yeah. And what would you say?
In your opinion, what will it be? For me, I think honestly, the most realistic thing would probably be Khabib and Gaethje if Khabib like mentally is ready.
I think that's kind of in the bag. That fight's gonna happen.
It's gonna happen, but the other
it's not gonna be a surprise.
I feel like if the UFC really wants to, defeat or like really give it to coronavirus, just like, screw it. This may be the worst year for it, but Nate Diaz 3.
Oh, Nate Diaz Connor. That's a good one.
It can happen anytime, and if Connor wants,
that's the thing. Yeah, that's the thing. It can happen anytime, and they're gonna hold on to that card.
Or any kind, or taking a step back. I feel like any Conor McGregor fight would probably.
Yeah, that's my
realistic.
Guess. Yeah, that's my guess too. A Conor McGregor fight, and
Santa.
It's not gonna be for a title. It'll be if I had to take a guess, it's got Poirier again. Maybe because they have fought before. Maybe Poirier at lightweight. Or, Conor looked good at 170, so maybe he'll take on a contender at 170. But yeah, Conor McGregor would be, if I had to take a guess. Also, it's coming from a place of wishful thinking as well. I can always use a Conor fight.
Cool. All right, Eric, that's been your top 5 versus newbie top 5. Not bad a conversation at all.
Hey, it's solid, man. You got a solid
base. All right, guys, that's been the Crunchy Take for this week. Be sure to check in on Spotify, YouTube, Google Podcasts, Radio Public, or any major podcast platform that you like to listen to. We are on it. You can find us by typing in The Crunchy Take on any platform. Thanks for listening, guys, and join us next week.